We are live. WrestleMania 39, Night 2, WrestleMania Sunday has just gone off the air. And the biggest story is the Undisputed Universal Championship match. Many people thought going into this one, this would be the moment. Roman Reigns has been the Universal Champion, or certainly, in his reign, he's been the Universal Champion for over 900 days. The story going into WrestleMania was about finishing the story. Cody Rhodes winning the Men's Royal Rumble match. He was going to finish the story. He was going to win the championship. He was going to win the big one, and he did not. We are still being dominated by the tribal chief. We are still living on the island of relevancy. Roman Reigns is still the undisputed WWE Universal Champion. Cody Rhodes did not finish his story, and Roman Reigns' story remains unfinished also. Welcome to the WrestleMania Sunday post-show. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Be sure to smash a like on the like button. Be sure to subscribe, bottom right-hand corner. What a wild WrestleMania weekend it has been indeed. WrestleMania Night 2 overall did not live up to the quality, the in-ring quality of WrestleMania Night 1. I think that was fairly obvious what to be honest, certainly what I expected heading into it. I thought after last night's WrestleMania, I thought, tell you what, if they equal that, then we're talking about one of the greatest WrestleManias of all time. It still will go down, I think, as one of the better WrestleManias of all time. But Night 2 was plagued by strangeness, injuries, a lot of commercials. But the biggest story will be the main event. The biggest story of WrestleMania weekend was this Undisputed Universal Championship main event. And most people thought if there was ever a time, that was the point, wasn't it? If there was ever a time that we were going to get Roman Reigns' record championship reign, and it would be tonight, but it was not. And I just had a feeling coming into this one that I just felt like, you know what? I don't think it's going to happen. And the reason I didn't think it was going to happen is I looked at the original plans. If you trace this one back, what were always the plans for WrestleMania? What were the other plans? The plan was initially, hey, we think it might be Roman Reigns versus The Rock. If Roman Reigns faces The Rock at WrestleMania for the Universal Championship, Roman Reigns would win. Then, of course, The Rock, he's not available, so they don't do that. At some point last year, and I say last year, I mean as late as like December time last year, it was pitched to Stone Cold Steve Austin, hey, what if you face Roman Reigns at WrestleMania for the Universal Championship? Now, of course, if that happens, Stone Cold Steve Austin is not going to win the Universal Championship. So the moment that Cody Rhodes became the challenger for Roman Reigns' Undisputed Universal Championship, the answer was already there. The plans were never to take the title off Roman Reigns. And despite people thinking that he was going to be the chosen one and all roads, pun intended, were going to lead to a title change at WrestleMania, Triple H has said no. But it does make you wonder, then when? When is this going to happen? You know, I think clearly they were looking at that number of being close to 1,000 days. Roman Reigns will hit 1,000 days as Universal Champion later next month in May. And that would suggest that they're at least getting to 1,000. Now, again, what they need to do coming out of WrestleMania is split the championships because Raw is left once again without a champion. Raw has now been without a champion for over 1 calendar year. Roman Reigns is part-time and he's a SmackDown superstar. So what we're looking at is, again, Raw without a champion. There had been reports that this was the last mess that Triple H was going to fix of Vince McMahon, but Vince McMahon's back. How much is he back? That's the real question. Vince McMahon, we know, is on an employee contract. He signed a 2-year employee contract. It was filed with the SEC, and it's been effective as of January. The SEC filing was only a few days ago, but it's effective as of January. We also know the big story in WWE right now, outside of the ring, is that an announcement is likely to be made tomorrow that Endeavor has purchased the controlling stake in WWE. They are going to be merging with the UFC. There's going to be a company that has the UFC and WWE, and it's going to be a publicly traded company. As part of this new company, Vince McMahon is going to be the executive chairman of this new company. Vince McMahon yesterday was on headsets at WrestleMania. Vince McMahon was giving direction and feedback at WrestleMania. And we know what a control freak Vince McMahon is. You could argue, how much of a coincidence is it or is it not that suddenly Vince McMahon's back and Roman Reigns retains when the storyline suggested that Cody Rhodes was going to win. We'll get into it as we go through. Be sure to smash the like on the like button, guys. Be sure to subscribe, bottom right-hand corner. We are going to go through this in a chronological order, so let me know your thoughts. We'll get your comments up on the screen as well. KVS says, Vince is back, baby. Bro says they're not going to bring Cody back on his first run and beat the man who has been holding up WWE since he left. Come on now. Miko says Solo is dethroning Roman. And Mick also says they're going to take one title away from Reigns tomorrow. That might be a possibility. I mean, you could argue what they could do because of that. You could have like an Adam Pearce or someone come out on Raw and say, you know, you had that match won and you've cheated one too many times. We're taking a belt off you, something like that. That could be the direction that they go in. We'll talk about that as we go through. But let's go through, as I mentioned, the show in a chronological order. The show kicked off with Brock Lesnar versus Omos. Now, the match was, as you would expect, went less than 5 minutes. Brock Lesnar defeats the Nigerian Giant in under 5 minutes, 4 minutes, 55 seconds. And to be honest, the match was really what you would expect it to be. It's all about these kind of matches are just, they're all about an image. Or they're all about a clip, a moment. And the clip and the image, in the same way that when Brock Lesnar and Omos faced off on Raw for their weigh-in a few weeks ago, and just the image of Omos standing over Brock Lesnar was going crazy on social media, and I think the weigh-in that they did was viewed by like 10 million people in something like 48 hours. It'll be the same with this. They'll post the highlights on YouTube tomorrow, and it'll get millions and millions of views. And the clip is Brock Lesnar F5ing Omos. And he did that. Brock Omos is legitimately 7'3". He's legitimately over 400 pounds. I mean, it's actually quite amazing that the ease in which Brock Lesnar can do this. He literally picked Omos up on his shoulders like it was nothing. like literally like it was nothing. Just picked him up, F5'd. I mean, credit to Brock. He sold. I always think back to the Kurt Angle thing of when someone asked him, how'd you have a good match with Brock Lesnar? He said, you make him sell. You make him sell for you. And that's what he did. He sold for Omos in this one and for a while, and he put him over. But this is one of those situations where you go, Brock, he's the best businessman in professional wrestling. He's one of the best businessmen in modern day professional wrestling history. Brock Lesnar is, I think he might even be on a higher contract than Roman Reigns. Brock Lesnar is one of, if not the highest paid person in WWE. And he doesn't get paid by the hour. He gets paid by the second. He went out tonight, wrestled for less than 5 minutes, probably left straight after the show. No problem. And it is what it was. We were never expecting a classic. I'm not going to say it exceeded expectations because it didn't. It didn't exceed expectations. It was what we thought it was going to be. Brock gets the victory after an F5. What Omos does next, they're probably building back up on television. Omos squashes some people, something like that. We won't see Brock again until, they might book him for Puerto Rico, maybe. I don't know. They don't necessarily need to. I think there's a Saudi show in May, isn't there? There's King of the Ring. It's in Saudi Arabia, so we'll probably see Brock then. So maybe he does stick around on television for the next month. Maybe they do the rematch. I wouldn't even be shocked if they just do the rematch at King of the Ring in Saudi Arabia or something like that. It would be fun to see Brock in the tournament, but I don't think that we will. So, that's the next time we'll see Brock. And again, it was an opening match, but whatever. It was fine, whatever. Next match was the Women's Showcase. The Women's Showcase match. Now, I said yesterday after the Men's Showcase match that the Women's Showcase match would not be anywhere near as good as the Men's Showcase match because, frankly, the Men's Showcase match actually kind of blew me away yesterday. I thought that, I looked at it and said for a match that had no stakes, was random, they basically took the mentality of, okay, this is our spot. We're gonna make the most of it. We're gonna do something with our spot here, and we're gonna make this work. And that's not to say that I don't think you can fault the work ethic or rate of the majority of this one, but utterly pointless. Ronda Rousey and Shayna Baszler get the victory by doing next to nothing in this one. Ronda Rousey clearly is hurt. We knew that going into WrestleMania. She's got a broken arm. She hasn't been able to train as well. She's got no cartilage and no MCL in her knee. She desperately needs surgery on her knee, clearly. Again, she's got a broken arm. Heading into it, her status for WrestleMania was up in the air anyway, so she barely did any kind of physical contact. Clearly, she's probably not even cleared to actually compete. Now, her tag team partner, Shayna Baszler, you would think she would take the bumps. But seemingly, Shayna Baszler was injured as well. Because in the closing moments of this one, Shayna Baszler comes in. She's not even wearing her boot anymore. She's almost barefooted. So I don't know if she hurt her foot. I don't know if she hurt her ankle or whatever. Ronda Rousey walks in and does an armbar. I think it's on Shotzi to get the win, or whoever it may be. It might have been Liv Morgan. Basically, it doesn't matter because the match doesn't matter. It was utterly pointless. It felt like it was a thing just to get Ronda Rousey on the card. I know at one point there were plans for maybe Ronda Rousey and Shayna Baszler to challenge for the Women's Tag Team Championships. I don't even think that's going to happen after WrestleMania because, again, clearly Ronda can't work. You know, she's hurt. And maybe even Shayna Baszler's hurt. And to be honest, that was kind of a recurring theme throughout the entirety of this show this evening, is things going wrong, people getting injured, and things being just somewhat anticlimactic. Again, I felt this when I looked at the lineup. When they released the lineups and they said night 2, I went, that night 2, there's a couple on there that are going to be decent, but I think it's going to struggle. And after those opening 2 matches, which, by the way, the opening 2 matches were done in just over 13 minutes. 13's a short match, you know, let alone 2. So it was done very quickly. And again, it didn't matter because it didn't have any stakes. You know, the winners didn't get a future Women's Tag Team Championship shot. It was just a showcase. What they were showcasing, I don't know. I don't know if Ronda Rousey showcasing how to win a match by doing nothing, maybe. I don't know. The rest of the people in there put an effort in, but it was just, you know, it was really one of those ones where, honestly, if I'm being really real and telling the truth, did it really belong on WrestleMania? No, it didn't. It did not belong on WrestleMania. It was not one of those matches. Now, switching gears, something that absolutely did belong on WrestleMania, and this for me, I would have said before the main event match of the night. I do think the main event was the match of the night, by the way. I thought it was excellently done. The finish and the outcome, we'll get into that. That's what I'm trying to get to because I think that's the most important thing here. But absolutely unbelievable. This, to me, is one of the high points of the evening. Gunther retains the Intercontinental Championship, defeating Sheamus and Drew McIntyre. Incredible. Honestly, what more needs to be said about this one? Absolutely spectacular. They did everything. We saw bro kicks and kickouts. We saw claymores and kickouts. We saw everything in this one. And Gunther eventually gets the victory. But this is what I love about Gunther, is he has this ability. And to be honest, he's been doing this for such a long time. He did it in NXT UK. He's done it in NXT. And now he's doing it on the main roster. He did it at Clash at the Castle against Sheamus. Is when there are these big premium live events, when there are these big stadium shows, he can have just this type of match that many people can't do, which is basically everything we're going to do is going to be stiff. It's going to be snug. It's going to be tough. After you're going to hurt. Everyone's chest in this match was absolutely cut up, just entirety. I mean, honestly, it was incredible. Everything was just was so snug and so brutal, but Gunther in the end picks up the victory. Again, there was a reason, I suppose, for each person that they could have possibly won this one. You know, you could have argued with Sheamus winning it because he's never won the Intercontinental Championship in his career. Drew McIntyre, top star, contract expiring later on this year. I think that's a bit of information or anything like that. But Gunther, talk about someone that, if you're not going to go with Cody Rhodes, why not go with Gunther? I mean, I know we're talking about a heel versus a heel, but I think maybe another key theme coming out of this show is lengthy title reigns, right? Gunther is well on the road to becoming the longest reigning Intercontinental Champion of all time. He's got some time to go to beat the Honky Tonk Man. I think he's got to go to, really late this year. I think it's got to be around like November-ish sort of time to beat the Honky Tonk Man's reign, because the Honky Tonk Man was a champion for over a year. I believe it was 400 and something days. So it'd have to be a while. But if there was ever someone to break their record, you would think it would be Gunther. And during that time, I kind of fantasize about the matches he could have along the way. And he could have some real special ones because he's making the Intercontinental Championship really mean something. How do you make the IC title mean something? You have main events, but you also have classic matches where you're fighting for something and you want to keep something. Gunther's, the Intercontinental Championship was always known as, the workman's title. That's what Shawn Michaels used to always call it, right? This is the workman's title. They can do all that big guy shit in the main event, but we're having the real matches. We're having the match of the shows. We're having the matches that people are remembering and saying, oh yeah, that was an amazing match. Gunther's doing that. Some of these, I mean, again, this is why I think he should break the record for the Honky Tonk Man, because at the end of it, it wouldn't be one of those ones which you say, yeah, he broke the record, but the matches along the way weren't great. It'll be, yeah, he broke the record, and the matches along the way were phenomenal. It'd be an all-timer. It deserves, with the matches he's having at this point, he deserves to have a title reign that's record-breaking, because it's worthy of that. It really is. It's worthy of that. And again, this was probably, again, aside from the main event, was my match of the night. But the main event was my match of the night because the crowd was just so invested and so going crazy. But Gunther, absolutely tremendous. Picks up the victory, as I mentioned. What it means for Sheamus and Drew McIntyre now, I don't know. I don't know if they start having matches against each other once again. I don't know if that's, again, the route that they go down. As far as Gunther, what he does next, that's a really good and interesting question as well. What does he do next? I mean, to be fair, with some of these title reigns, it might be a case of because the draft seemingly is coming up and they might do a real hard brand split, which is what I've speculated on. We could see a whole new host of opponents for Gunther possibly to compete against. So that might be something, because you do look at the mid-card scene on SmackDown, you say, well, who is he going to face off against? What other mid-card talents are there that are baby faces, not heels? You're not too sure. So that might be something that they have to consider coming out of WrestleMania. Next match was for the Raw Women's Championship, and be sure to smash a like on the like button, by the way, guys. We've got nearly 90 people watching. Let's see if we can get to 50 likes. We're nearly halfway there, so if you haven't already, click the like on the like button. Be sure to subscribe as well, bottom right-hand corner. Let's do a quick subscriber check, see where we are at already. We're at 10,565, only 5 subscribers away from 10,570. So if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe, bottom right-hand corner. As I mentioned during the watch-long, real big week of WWE news coming up. Of course, I know obviously always the fallout to WrestleMania is massive anyway, and there's always so much to talk about, so much news to get into, but probably the biggest story in WWE, certainly modern day WWE history, is upon us, and that is WWE being sold, or WWE merging with the UFC, or being owned by someone that isn't Vince McMahon. That's a pretty big deal, to be fair to say. So we're going to be covering all of that over the next few days. So if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe, bottom right hand corner. As I mentioned, click a like on the like button. I might put a poll in the chat as well, actually. How would you rate WrestleMania Night 2? And we're going to just say thumbs. Actually, maybe I'll do emoji. Thumbs up or thumbs down is what I'm going to do in this one. Thumbs up. Or are we going to have thumb down? There you go. The poll is in the chats. How would you rate WrestleMania Night 2? Thumbs up or thumbs down. Be sure to get your votes in, as well as your likes in. As I mentioned, over 100 people watching. Let's see if we can get to those likes to 50. At least half of you. Half of you can click the like button. So there you go. Next one, as I mentioned, was the Raw Women's Championship match. This was interesting. It wasn't the best out of the two women's championship matches this weekend. I did think that Rhea Ripley and Charlotte Flair was better yesterday, because it's one of the best matches, women's matches in WrestleMania history. This match struggled going into the show because, frankly, the build to it was non-existent. It was poor. So whenever the talent have that, it's difficult because they have to give the audience a reason to care. That's part of the issue. That's part of the struggle that they had. And I felt that they did that. I did feel like they did that. I did feel like the crowd wanted maybe Asuka to win this one, but of course they did not. Bianca Belair gets the victory, KOD on Asuka. And she's now been Raw Women's Champion for 1 year. And again, it was a good match. I think when we were rating this during the watch long, I think we gave it I think I gave it a 3. I think I gave it a 3. Not to say that it was a bad match. The finish was essentially that Asuka goes for the mist, Bianca Belair ducks, she goes for the KOD, Asuka counters that into the Asuka lock, and then Bianca Belair manages to sort of deadlift her, squat her, pull her up into the air, KOD, 1, 2, 3, gets the victory. She retains the Raw Women's Championship. Again, it was a good match, but it still, I think, did suffer with the lack of storyline build going into it. It still did hurt that, there wasn't really any issue here apart from them going after the championship and Asuka winning her Elimination Chamber match, right? That was kind of the only sort of issue in question. So that kind of hurt it. But again, the crowd were into it, and Bianca Belair retains. Again, as to what she now does coming out of WrestleMania, that's a fascinating question. Who does she face coming out of WrestleMania? If you look on the Raw roster, the Raw Women's division, again, it's almost like I was saying with Gunther, really. When you look at sort of opponents that they faced off against before, maybe you do need to shake it up. Maybe you do need to go to something of a brand split, a draft rather, and reinforce the brand split to get some new opponents, get some fresh opponents to face off against. But again, I enjoyed the match. I didn't think it was better than the SmackDown Women's Championship, but that was fine. Now, I don't have a graphic for this one. It's not the Roman Reigns Cody Rhodes match. Again, we're going to get to that. But we had a segment, and this is really where the show started to collapse a little bit. We had a segment whereby Snoop Dogg's out in the ring with The Miz. Now, if you watched WrestleMania Night 1, WrestleMania Saturday, what happened is that The Miz was out there with Snoop Dogg. He said, why didn't you have a match at WrestleMania? And The Miz said, well, I challenged people to a match. I put out tweets and Instagram posts, and nobody accepted my challenge. And then Snoop Dogg goes, well, why don't you face this guy? And out comes Pat McAfee. And that was last night. Pat McAfee faces The Miz. He beats The Miz. There was a football player there as well that helped Pat McAfee, and they go, it was amazing. So they're back out in the ring again this evening, and they basically did the same thing. As Miz is talking about the match yesterday, and he says, look, I've got a bone to pick with you, Snoop. I've got a bone to pick with you. I can't believe you made me have a match yesterday. I can't believe you did that to me. I can't believe you embarrassed me. I had a $10,000 suit on. How could you do that? And Snoop Dogg says, you want another one? You want another one? You want another match? And Miz says, no, I don't want another match. And at this point, I'm thinking, right, people have been saying, how'd you get Bobby Lashley onto WrestleMania? And by the way, Bobby Lashley came out earlier on in the evening. I thought we were going to have some kind of Bobby Lashley segment. No, he just kind of stood around and picked up the Andre the Giant trophy and waved it around. So for all of those reports, by the way, what a load of nonsense. For all of those reports that said, Bobby Lashley, don't you worry, he's factored in, he's featured in, he's going to get on the WrestleMania card, they're figuring out a way. Don't worry, they'll get a way to get Bobby Lashley on the card. Same with LA Knight. Remember LA Knight? Remember him? Super over. He was being cheered for on SmackDown, all that kind of stuff. Don't worry, they're going to get him on the card. They'll find a way. There are plans. There are creative plans. Stone Cold Steve Austin. Yeah, Stone Cold Steve Austin, that's what's going to happen. Yeah, don't worry, they're going to get on there. But even Bobby Lashley, when he came out and he had to hold up his Andre the Giant trophy, he looked like, seriously, you can't find anything for me? I know my opponent got injured or was ill or whatever, but seriously, you had weeks to figure this out and still you can't do anything for me? So when Snoop Dogg saying, you want another opponent, I thought, well, at least they're going to do this, right? Maybe they'll bring up Bobby Lashley. Maybe they'll bring out LA Knight. They'll do that. And then Shane McMahon comes out. Yes, the Shane McMahon, Vince McMahon's son. The same Shane McMahon, by the way, the last time we saw him was in the Royal Rumble. Not this year, last year. Now, the fallout after that Royal Rumble was epic. The reason why? Because he was a producer and it was a disaster. The stories of the way he was producing that Rumble were horrific. Now, in recent years, Shane McMahon's come in and helped produce the Royal Rumble. And he did it last year, and by all accounts, he was insufferable. He was making changes, nobody knew what was going on, it was ridiculous. He was basically trying to center the match around himself, despite the fact that he's over 50 years of age, and there were other younger, better wrestlers than him in the match. He reportedly wanted the final two of the Royal Rumble match to be himself and Brock Lesnar, and he wanted it to be a fair fight. Who does he think he is? He thinks even in his prime, he thinks he could go toe-to-toe with Brock Lesnar. Bear in mind, he hadn't been on TV for forever, since WrestleMania the prior year, when he faced Braun Strowman, when Strowman beat him. So because of his insanity, because of his madness, Vince McMahon, you know you've effed up when even Vince McMahon has to fire his own son. And that's what he did. He fired his own son. He said Shane will never be back in WWE again. This was according to reports. He will never be back again because of his behavior. It was ridiculous. And by all accounts, Shane got paid very handsomely for doing that Royal Rumble spot where he was in there for 2 minutes, but he was a massive pain in the ass. So Shane McMahon comes out. He's going to have a match against The Miz. And obviously the crowd goes crazy because they weren't expecting to see Shane and they like the music, and Shane comes out. And this whole time I'm thinking, well, look, it's great to see Shane, and I guess all's forgiven for him being a giant pain in the ass 18 months ago. But you're telling me Shane McMahon should be having a match at WrestleMania, even though it's going to be a couple of minutes. Shane McMahon should have a match at WrestleMania, but Bobby Lashley can't. Bobby Lashley has to carry around a trophy on the stage. You're telling me that LA Knight, he can't even appear on the show, let alone carry a trophy around. He can't do nothing. But Shane McMahon is going to come out. Again, a guy that hasn't been on TV for 18 months. And last time he left, everyone said, oh, what a giant pain in the ass. I guess Vince McMahon well and truly is back. I guess it is all in the family once again. Because absolute nonsense. And then, as if karma happens in real time, they ring the bell. Shane McMahon does a leapfrog. Michael Cole on commentary is saying Shane McMahon still got it. He doesn't got it still. What he also doesn't have is an ankle that's working anymore. He doesn't have an ankle that's intact. Shane McMahon has got nothing. He's barely got ankles now at the moment because he broke it. He does a leapfrog. He lands on his feet. And then he looks like he's stumbled. He tries to get back up and he can't get back up because he's effed. He looks down at the floor, he looks at his leg or his knee or something's going on. The referee comes over and Shane McMahon clearly goes to the referee, I can't get up, I can't move. So this big grand plan, this big WrestleMania surprise, WrestleMania Hollywood, this WrestleMania surprise is WrestleMania Hollywood. Shane McMahon comes out and breaks his ankle. And obviously you feel bad, you don't want to see anyone get injured. But you just sort of say, you know what I think? I feel like if that was a Bobby Lashley or an LA Knight, I feel like that wouldn't have happened. And I know accidents happen and all that kind of stuff, but it was just stupid. It's stupid booking. It's people not getting spots that they deserve. What is this, 2018 all over again? Shane McMahon. Remember 2018, Shane McMahon beat Roman Reigns and they were calling himself best in the world. He was the most featured guy on television. People didn't want that then. And so they have to improvise, and I give credit to whoever came up with the idea. Some saying it might have been the referee, Jessica Carr, improvises, says to Snoop Dogg, you need to do something. Snoop Dogg improvised, I think, very well as well, considering he's a celebrity. I mean, he don't know. You know, he's been around pro wrestling enough, but he doesn't know what's going on. At one point, he's even on the microphone saying, you all right, Shane? And Shane's clearly like, no, I'm not. I haven't been on my feet in 3 minutes because I can't stand up. I've just broke my ankle. So Snoop Dogg improvises, punches Miz twice in the face, hits the people's elbow, gets the 1, 2, 3. You know, in terms of improvising, I think they did as well as they could do in that moment. But at the same time, Luxie was saying that apparently he blew his knee, not his ankle. Wow, even then, he's got no, here comes the money, here comes, well, I don't know, here comes what? It was dumb. It was dumb. And Shane McMahon shouldn't have been in that spot. He shouldn't have. And again, I feel bad for him. They maybe blew out his knee or whatever. But because it's such a falsehood as well with WWE. They try and play out Shane was a great wrestler. Shane was not ever been a great wrestler. He has not been a great wrestler. He is a character that used to do hive spots. That's what he used to do. And again, he had no business being in that spot. That he had no business being in that spot this evening. JK says, here comes the no-knee. Come on. That works. That works. It was ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. But they improvised well considering, but it was nonsense. Again, be sure to smash a like on the like button. Got nearly 200 people watching. Be sure to subscribe as well, bottom right-hand corner. Just do a quick subscribe check before we move on to the co-main event. We're at 10,570. I tell you what, 30 subscribers away from 10,600. Could you imagine? Could you imagine? So if you're watching this live or you're watching after the fact, be sure to subscribe as well, bottom right-hand corner. Let's get on to the Hell in a Cell match. Yes, Edge defeats Finn Balor. The Demon Finn Balor by pinfall. I think the third person to defeat the Demon ever. This was a strange, but the match was good. The match was good. I wasn't blown away by it. The match was good. Again, this is, like I said, the show started to collapse a little bit. And I think what really hurt this match, and I praise them for their ability to recover and get the crowd back in this one. The reason I say that is, so we had special entrances, of course. We had Edge come out with a Brood entrance. He came out to Slayer, which was awesome. And I thought, given that he was Brood Edge, that we were going to see Gangrel, and Gangrel was in LA. We didn't. So that didn't happen. We saw Finn Balor come out as the Demon Finn Balor, still with red on him, which makes less sense when we're going to talk about in a second. But he came out, he had these purple flares that he was doing around and all this kind of stuff. So what they clearly were doing a color scheme thing. They were doing a color scheme thing whereby, they had Edge was red, and everything Edge was using was red, and everything Finn Balor had was purple. So that's kind of what they were doing. So Edge had red steel chairs and red kendo sticks. Finn Balor had purple tables and purple kendo sticks. I guess they were doing Mace Windu versus Darth Maul or something like that. That was odd. But the match was going along fine, and there were some decent spots. And they have a spot where Edge throws a ladder at the face, at the head of Finn Balor. And one of the rungs of the ladder hits Finn Balor right here. I mean, right slap bang, right in between the eyes. And at the time, you went, "Oh, that was rough." And they showed a replay or two, and it looked like he got his hands up, and you go, "Well, I guess he was kind of protected." And he looked fine. Then he sort of crawls a little bit, and you just start to see on the mat. They had the camera up, sort of halfway up in the Hell in the Cell structure, and you just see blood just start gushing right from his head, just gushing onto the mat. And you go, wow, he is really cut open. He is busted open. And it goes to show with those ladders, they do have a mind of their own. They are absolutely rough. Now, what they had to do next, I understand what they had to do. I get it, right? It's a head injury and it's PG. There's no blood in WWE. So they had to get medical people to come inside Hell in a Cell. But at the same time, it's Hell in a Cell, right? The whole point is that you've got this match that's the most violent match type in WWE. The most violent match type possible. And people going into it scream bloody murder. I'm going to do this to you. I'm going to do this to you. I'm going to do that. Blah, 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 blah. I'm going to make you suffer. I'm going to make you feel pain that's unimaginable, all this kind of stuff. Apart from if you bleed, then we're going to get some medical people in. It's like, it kind of takes away from it. And the crowd knew it, and Edge knew it as well. And Finn Balor, to his credit, he knew it. Because at the same time, the character that they're portraying, and when Finn Balor's in this demon thing, he's making all of these faces and making all of these noises going, like literally. But he gets a cut and he's got to get it closed up. And again, I get it. I understand it. That it is 2023. And again, WWE is a publicly traded company. They're a PG company. They don't want blood. And there's lots of sponsors on the show. They're getting $20 million in sponsorship. So they don't want that. I get it. But it's just like, again, it's Hell in the Cell, but they're not allowed to bleed. If there's an injury, that's a bad thing. He's a demon. And he was no-selling chair shots and forearms to the face, but they've also got to get someone in to glue his face back together if he's bleeding. It's sort of like, again, I get it, but it did sort of hurt the flow of the match, because that whole thing took maybe 2-3 minutes, maybe 4 minutes, something like that. So that's 2, 3, 4 minutes that they had to cut out the match. And when this was happening, Edge, and I give credit to Edge and the camera people, because they kind of worked their way around it. Edge then starts going, right, he's getting fixed up. I'm just going to start moving around. I'm just going to start getting weapons out from under the ring. I'm going to start doing stuff and setting stuff up, which again, that did work. And I do credit both men, because they have this incident that happens in the match, and it takes a lot of time to get back from and recover. But despite that, they were able to get the crowd back into it, and the crowd were still into it. They were able to get the crowd back to buying in. They did some good spots. They had a spot where Edge is on a table in the ring. Finn Balor climbs up to the top rope. Then he says, you know what? I'm going to climb up the cell. Climbs it to Hell in the Cell. There's a little platform. He jumps off. He goes for the coup de grace. Edge rolls away. So he goes through the table. Edge then hits a spear and hits the concerto on the demon, and that's it. 1, 2, 3. And I did see some people complaining, saying, "Well, I feel like Finn Balor should have got that victory. Finn Balor should have won." And I get that, because most likely it is Edge's final WrestleMania, you would think. There's been rumors he might retire later this year. He's also said that he's probably going to consider retiring in Toronto. I think WWE goes back to Toronto in the summer. So he has spoken about that. And maybe it would have been right for Edge to win. But at the same time, when you look at the overall storyline, it kind of does make sense that Edge would win that one. I mean, the story is that this group is, he was excommunicated from his own group. They tormented his family. The storyline has to be that the person gets revenge, is it not? That would make the most sense to me. So, that's certainly quite interesting. But Edge gets the victory there. Again, I thought it was a good match, but certainly interesting. A couple of just quotes that are coming out of the press conference as well. Of course, I know the press conference is happening whilst we're live. John Alba and Alex McAfee, they're all reporting that Triple H was asked if he can comment on the reports of an impending WWE sale today. He says nope. He can't confirm or deny any of the reports about the sale. Again, I think that Triple H has said in the post-show press conference that Shane McMahon has tore his quad. So it wasn't his ankle, he tore his quad jumping up. It's just, again, I do feel bad for Shane. I feel bad for anyone getting injured, but I feel like that could all be completely avoided. I really do. I think that could have all been avoided. They actually have a person that wrestles all the time in there. And that leads us, of course, to the main event, which, of course, is going to be the biggest talking point coming out of this, irrespective. Either way, it was going to be the biggest talking point coming out of this one. And that is that Roman Reigns is still the undisputed WWE Universal Champion after defeating Cody Rhodes. Now, I could go through all of the minutiae of this match and all of the different moments and all this kind of stuff, but we don't even have time to do that. So it looked like, and it felt like at certain points, that Cody Rhodes indeed was going to finish the story, and Cody Rhodes was going to win at the undisputed WWE Universal Championship. That did not happen. Solo Sikoa was at ringside with Roman Reigns when he came out, and I thought that was quite curious. And I did predict kind of where it was going, but I didn't see right at the end where it was going. So Solo Sikoa comes out with Roman Reigns, and you go, right, Solo Sikoa is going to get involved. And as the match sort of progressed early on, Solo Sikoa got involved a couple of times, whether it's, grabbing Rhodes' foot or whether it's, a shot to the back, all this kind of stuff. Later on in the match, Solo Sikoa seemingly has taken Cody's weight belt, which he gave to Brody Lee's, the late Brody Lee's son, Brody Jr. in the crowd. He took the weight belt off him and he hits Cody Rhodes with it. Now, the referee doesn't see that. The referee just hears it. The referee hears it and he turns around and he says, Solo Sikoa, that must have come from you, throws him out. So Solo Sikoa goes back and you think, okay, they're going to do this. And I said at the time that I felt like that was a method to distract the audience and say, wow, there can't be any interference now, so we're going to get a straight match. I always felt, okay, the Usos are going to come out at some point. And that's what happened. So later on, there's a ref bump. Now, I think I've got my fill of ref bumps this weekend. We saw 3 across 3 different shows. We saw one at Stand and Deliver in the Bron Breakker Carmelo Hayes match. And you could say, well, and that's kind of removed from the WWE sort of narrative. So you go, okay. But we saw one yesterday as well in the John Cena Austin Theory match, opening WrestleMania. What we actually saw is in the opening match of WrestleMania weekend, we saw a ref bump. In the closing match of WrestleMania weekend, we saw a ref bump as well. I've had my fill of the ref bumps this weekend, right? So we have a ref bump. Out come the Usos. Big double super kick to Cody Rhodes. But you knew where it was going when they came out. You said, well, we know what's going to happen now because out come, rightfully so, Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn. They defeated the Usos last night for the Undisputed Tag Team Championships. This whole angle of them fighting once again implies to me that this isn't done. We're going to see the Usos versus KO and Sami Zayn once again, probably at Backlash. Maybe we'll see a 6-man. Maybe we'll see the Bloodline versus Sami, Kevin, and Cody Rhodes. Maybe that will be the main event for Backlash. It's a pretty strong main event, in fairness. So they come out, and not only did they come out and fight off the Usos, but also they attack Roman Reigns. You see Owens hit Roman Reigns with a stunner. That's followed by a haluva kick. They did a really good spot where Cody Rhodes crawls, puts his arm over Roman Reigns. Referee crawls back into the ring, does the slow count. Roman Reigns kicks out. You say, what's going to happen? How are they going to do this? So it then leads to the finish. Whereby Cody Rhodes hits not 1, but 2 crossroads on Roman Reigns. He does the thing whereby he hits one, pulls him back up, hits another, and I thought, right, that they're going into the finish here. This is the finish. We've seen Cody Rhodes do this a couple of times in other matches where he literally does the crossroad over and over and over again as if like the final put him into the ground. It's like when John Cena does like 2 or 3 AAs in a row. So I thought, right, this is what's going to happen. Cody Rhodes is going to win. Cody Rhodes is going to win. As he goes to do the final one, Paul Heyman's up on the apron. He's distracting the referee. Look over here. No, I'm not having this. Solo Sikoa comes back out once again, sneaks behind Cody Rhodes. Samoan Spike. Roman Reigns hits the spear. 1, 2, 3. And Roman Reigns retains the Undisputed Universal Championship. This is a really interesting decision, and there are lots of different, you feel like, ramifications because of it. Heading into the event, I think a lot of people felt that, whilst I still had my reservations if WWE was going to do it, like I said, I always felt that they would be really intrigued by that 1,000-day thing with Roman Reigns. You felt like if there was ever a time, that was the thing, wasn't it? If there's ever a time to do it, now would be the time to do it. Because who else? That's the question at this point, isn't it? Who else would it be? So you said no with Sami Zayn, Elimination Chamber. And the reason they said no, remember, with Sami Zayn winning the titles at Elimination Chamber was, well, but it's because it's WrestleMania. It's because it's for Cody. It's for Cody at WrestleMania. That's what they're going to do. So you go, okay, it's for Cody at WrestleMania. That makes sense. So, but if not Cody now, then who? Then when? Are we saying it's going to be SummerSlam then? Because after Roman Reigns gets to 1,000 days in May, SummerSlam's in Detroit this year. Maybe they do that. Maybe they're waiting for the 1,000 day. That's what they want to do. But they now have an issue with the championships. What are they going to do with the titles? Because frankly, they need to split them. And unless at this point, again, they do a thing tomorrow night on Raw where Adam Pearce comes out and says, "Look, enough. I've had enough of it. You can't hold both titles to ransom anymore. You've cheated all the time. You can, we're unifying the bouts. Here you go." Or Roman Reigns comes out and says, "I'm unifying the bouts. I've got one bout, this new championship bout that's seemingly been created." And then later on in the evening, there's a case of, well, because he's got one bout and he's only on SmackDown, we're introducing a new championship and Cody Rhodes wins that. But the thing is now, even if Cody Rhodes wins this new championship, he's still lost. He's still lost to Roman Reigns, and Roman Reigns will still be considered the biggest champion, the lineal champion. Even you can create a second bout, but he would still feel secondary. Again, unless they do a brand split where it's like Cody Rhodes and Roman Reigns don't even touch each other again till next year. So I don't know what they do, and if they don't have a wider plan for this, there's a feeling that maybe they diverted, doesn't it? That's the feeling, I think. I don't get the impression that this was always maybe necessarily the plan. But at the same time, it might have been. I don't know. It just feels like the story there. We've seen this entire weekend at WrestleMania. All of the stories not being necessarily predictable, but make sense. The stories that make sense. Like you look at last night, right? The story that made sense was Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens winning. If the Usos won last night, you would say that makes no sense. The whole story is about disintegrating the bloodline, beating the bloodline, the reunification of best friends. For them to lose, you would say that doesn't make a lot of sense. Tonight, it feels like the original plan would have been for Cody to win, but something's changed. But something's pivoted. Now, is that thing that's made it pivot? Is that a man in his 70s with jet black hair and a pencil mustache that's just returned and is back on headsets? I'll let you be the judge of that. But it kind of does feel like that a little bit, doesn't it? And anything they do now to try and rectify this, i.e. create something new titles, Cody's the champion of Raw, Roman's the champion of SmackDown, it still won't feel good. It still won't feel right. And let's face it, the reason the stadium was buzzing and the reason the stadium was rumbling tonight was because they thought they were going to witness history, because it made sense. And does Roman Reigns winning necessarily make sense? Yes and no. From the story, maybe it doesn't make a lot of sense. From a business perspective, it maybe does make sense. That's the key thing there as well. Roman Reigns said after the match, I don't know if you caught him, he said it into the camera, if it ain't broke, That's what he said. He said, if it ain't broke. And I wouldn't be shocked. And this is just speculation at this point. I wouldn't be shocked if he said, if the discussion was Cody's going to win, and if he or people that were lobbying for him to win said, why are we trying to, fix something that's not broken? We're doing record business. And for all intents and purposes, they are. WWE is doing record business at the moment. They are selling tickets. They did a house show in Denver recently. They sold 10,000 tickets. Roman Reigns wasn't even on that show. And maybe Roman's point might be is there's still more we can get out of this bloodline stuff. There's still extra mileage that isn't there yet. And with Cody Rhodes, maybe it might be a thing of, no, the story is that the story, you thought you were going to finish the story at WrestleMania. It's about the comeback after that. But it's going to be really interesting to see where they go with Cody Rhodes after this, because I don't know where they go with him after this. The story has to be for Cody now is how he came back from this devastating defeat, how he recovered from. The story has to be eventually Cody Rhodes has to win a world championship. If Cody Rhodes doesn't become either undisputed WWE Universal Champion or WWE Champion very soon, then there could be sort of long-term ramifications of that in terms of how popular he is. I'm not saying Cody Rhodes was going to be Stone Cold Steve Austin or anything like that, but Steve Austin wasn't going to lose to Shawn Michaels at WrestleMania 14. And again, it kind of felt a little bit like that tonight. They went the route that maybe wasn't the smartest route to go, but I don't know. But I just had a feeling. I had a feeling that this was the direction that they would be going down. Roman Reigns has just tweeted, we're just getting started. Hashtag acknowledge me. Hashtag WrestleMania. Hashtag Tribal Chief. John Alba has tweeted that. Paul Levesque says Finn Balor is doing great after the injury scare. He said he got some staples in the ring and all that kind of stuff. I think he was also asked about the Cody Rhodes decision. I think Triple H has spoken about his decision for Cody Rhodes to lose the match. I just want to see if I can find that quote. Here we go. It's a feel, and you feel it. Sometimes your feeling is wrong. Sometimes your feeling is right. Paul Levesque told John Alba about the decision to not pull the trigger on the Cody Rhodes title win. Some people are suggesting that maybe Cody Rhodes isn't the guy. Maybe it's Jey Uso. That's quite interesting. Paul Levesque also said in response to the booking decision in the main event, quote, "It almost perfectly spelled out in this story. I need to finish the story. In WWE, the story never finishes. Tomorrow night on Raw, the story continues. It takes another chapter." Yeah, I mean, I disagree. I disagree with what he's saying there, because him saying, the story never finishes, to me, that's a bit of a cop-out, honestly. Stories can finish in WWE and they move on to a different story. A story is not always continuous. They can close a chapter on it and move on. As to who the person is to beat Roman Reigns, maybe it is Jey Uso. I guess now Cody Rhodes is feuding with Solo Sikoa. And no disrespect to Solo, because he's got a huge upside, but coming off of the Roman Reigns, it's a downgrade for him. That is a downgrade for him. And Triple H has done a lot right as the chief content officer in WWE, but this might be one of his biggest fumbles, honestly. Again, we'll have to wait and see how it plays out, obviously, but it felt like the natural direction to go in was Cody to win tonight. And Roman Reigns has... not only he's defended, think how wild this is, he's defended his championship in his third consecutive WrestleMania main event, and he's won. He's also defeated the last 3 men's Royal Rumble winners in the main event of WrestleMania. He defeated Edge and Daniel Bryan. Edge won the Rumble in 2021. He defeated Brock Lesnar last year, and he's defeated Cody Rhodes. It's really, really fascinating, absolutely fascinating. I've also got some details when it comes to the finish of this. This comes from Sean Ross Sapp from Fightful Select. Let me get this report up in front of me. So some details regarding the finish of WrestleMania. Hot off the press. This comes just a few minutes ago. So Sean Ross Sapp of Fightful Select is saying, obviously Cody Rhodes was defeated by Roman Reigns in the main event in what came as a shocker to many. The plan for Cody Rhodes and Roman Reigns to have a match was planned last summer after there were some internal pitches for Rhodes to wrestle John Cena even after his injury. When Vince McMahon was in power, there was no plan for Roman Reigns to lose the World Championships, much less for Cody to win it. Once he was out of power, the plan was for sure in motion to Cody to compete in the match. There were people within WWE who began to defend the idea of Reigns winning this past week, and there were some murmurs that he would win last week. Now, Fightful have confirmed that the plan for Reigns to emerge victorious was set, and several people were aware of it several weeks ago. We're not told when the talent were informed. We can confirm that a lot of interference elements weren't relayed to talent, refs, and ringside staff until today, and the involvement of many parties were previously unknown. Fightful has asked WWE sources and a rep if Vince McMahon was involved in the decision making, and they all claimed that he was not. So Essentially, they're saying this was actually the plan for the last couple of weeks. Now, talent might not have been informed that this was the plan for a couple of weeks, but according to those within WWE, they're suggesting that, oh no, this was always the plan. But again, it's leading some to question, what's the plan? Like, what's the plan then? Because you had this felt like a layup. This felt like a layup, and Triple H is saying that. Come Raw tomorrow. It's going to be a new chapter told on Raw. That's going to be really, really interesting, I think. Lux Hill says the problem is they've undermined WrestleMania because if not the grandest stage of them all, when? And I think that's the question coming out of this, isn't it? That's the biggest question. It's when and who, because it felt like we had proper answers, and it also felt like for the last year when we've seen Roman Reigns win these matches, whether it's against Drew McIntyre at Clash at the Castle, whether it's against Kevin Owens at Royal Rumble, whether it's Sami Zayn at Elimination Chamber, we've kind of accepted Roman's going to win that one because we're getting to WrestleMania, because it's going to be someone at WrestleMania, because it's going to be the WrestleMania match. And now it's a bit deflating, isn't it? Because you say, okay, well, then when is it going to be? And who is it going to be? Because Cody Rhodes, he's the top babyface in the company. Make no mistake about it. Cody Rhodes is the top babyface in WWE. The evidence was there where he was sat alongside Triple H at the Hall of Fame on Friday. That's set for the guy. That's okay. This is the guy. He sits next to the boss. He sits next to the decision maker. And if the top babyface in the main event of WrestleMania after coming back from an injury isn't the one to defeat Roman Reigns, then who is? Unless, again, the story is that they stretch it out until SummerSlam. That's the only thing I can think of. The only thing I can think of is that they've decided it needs to be 1,000 days, because we'll never be able to do this again. We'll never be able to hit 1,000 days ever again on anything, so we might as well do it. But the problem is sometimes you only get that one shot to really pull the trigger at the right time, when the time is right. Triple H said it himself. Sometimes it's a feeling. And it felt like tonight would be the night. I'm not necessarily totally against it, but I would just say my response to it would be, is it going to mean as much? Put it this way: if Cody Rhodes beats Roman Reigns at SummerSlam, is it gonna feel as big or as much as if it was tonight at WrestleMania? I don't know. And things might be totally different by then. They really might. So that's the really interesting part in all of this too. Social media, of course, is absolutely trending, going crazy, talking, what's trending is horrible, boring, and Rhodes as well. People certainly not happy regarding the finish. People not happy regarding the outcome. And again, it's really, really, really surprising. And people aren't happy. People aren't happy. We'll see. We'll see what happens. I'm sure the fallout, the discourse will continue. Of course, we will be covering this tomorrow on the news videos tomorrow. As I mentioned, we're going to be covering all of the things when it comes to the sale of WWE. We're expecting an announcement from Endeavor and WWE about the sale of the company, a potential purchase. We'll be talking about reaction internally from WrestleMania tomorrow. So there's going to be a lot to cover over the next few days here at WrestleNews 365. So be sure to smash a like on the like button. Be sure to subscribe, bottom right-hand corner. We still got close to 100 people watching. Let's see if we can get the likes up a little bit before we wrap things up. Let's do a quick subscriber check as well. We're currently at 10,576. So if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe as well. Anyway, guys, I'm out of here. Thank you for joining me throughout WrestleMania weekend, and we'll be back with more content very soon. Peace.
Hey guys, thank you for watching, listening, streaming, or however you come across this video today. Be sure to click on the video on the right there to watch our next video, or click the bottom there to subscribe, or the bottom right hand corner. Thank you very much, and I'll speak to you again very soon.